Welcome to Open House. Today, I'm talking to Andee Zeigler, the listing prep specialist for one of the top performing teams here at Living Room Realty. We are going to discuss the art and business of managing expectations, delivering expert service, and driving exceptional results for our sellers. Thanks for being here, Andee.
Thanks for having me.
Can you tell us, what is the job description? Like when you describe what you do to folks, how do you describe it?
So we get a listing, we get a client committed to listing with us, and then it's my lane from there until list date. So I do all of the physical prep, all the paperwork prep, and all of the big decision making about the aesthetics of the property. And then Kim's lane is the psychology of it, I guess, and the finance side of it.
And the negotiation, really.
And the negotiation, yeah. I don't do that.
So you and I did early in our career, almost 20 years ago, we did a deal together. And so we've both been in this business for a long time. And you used to do everything from A to Z. You weren't on a big team, both for your sellers and for your buyers. Why did you choose to step into this really highly specialized niche of the business? Quality
of life, honestly. It's just doing my flow instead of having to have all the slog of all the other parts of the job. And I always feel like listing agent and buyer's agent are really two different jobs kind of entirely. And so you spend so much of your career building your database and it's mostly buyers in the front end. And then you get into start having listings and you're like, oh man, now I have to relearn this whole other part of the job. And after the pandemic, it was just like the balance wasn't there in life anymore.
Yeah. And how do you think that benefits the client?
They get my A game every time. I'm not tired. I'm not burnt out. I'm not feeling like I don't have anything left to give like I was before. And I think that's true for everybody in the way our team operates is it is our A game for every role that we're doing, which feels like a flow. And so you get our best attention, you get our best ideas, you get just the best of us.
I love that because one of the things, early on in my career, I realized is that so many agents struggle with making that first hire, right? And they're like, I need an assistant. And it's like, well, let's talk what that means because a lot of times people want, I want someone that does transaction coordination, but also can do really snazzy marketing. And you're like, okay, you're talking about two distinct, different skill sets and probably different people.
Yeah.
But it seems that in our industry, people are really afraid to niche out and specialize and build powerful teams. And there's instead this psychology of like, no, I have to do it all, which is ridiculous. Because if I went into a surgeon's office,
right,
he was the one that checked me in and was also decorating the office and writing the newsletter, I'd be like, I definitely need a different surgeon.
I think that early on in real estate, at least in my experience, the team model is messy in the beginning. And there was a lot of just like agent to agent collaboration in a transaction was tricky with teams because there was lack of communication, the lanes weren't clear, and it felt like it was a hard sell to clients to be like, I know we have this relationship, but also I have all these people over here to help me. And that felt like an unclear handoff in the beginning. That definitely doesn't feel that way with this team. But yeah, it's hard to let go of trusting that somebody else is going to do this particular part of the job as well as you or better. And also to just allow yourself to be like, no, I actually only want to do the things I'm really good at.
But I know, like when I see that you collaborate so much with Kim, that you guys have so much respect for each other because it's like, there's no one better out there than each other for these particular parts of a transaction.
For sure.
So what happens? So Kim gets the listing. She works with the client, I imagine, to set kind of like strategy, starting developing pricing strategy. But there's so much to do, of course, of getting that property just even ready to get to market. And then that's where you step in?
I step in after the first listing appointment. She takes an amazing amount of photos, like usually somewhere between 70 and 100 photos from her initial walkthrough. And then we put those in a drive file and we get on a call together and we go through it and like, are we on the same page about what needs to happen in this house? What could happen in this house? And we talk through that. And then it's really a combination of timing and client's budget and what the actual return on investment's going to be. And then we go back to that list and say, what can we reasonably do and what is going to make the most impact? And we put that together and then she takes that back to the client. And she like is just exceptional at teeing me up. So by the time I come in, I'm not offending anyone. I'm not having to tell them that the paint color they picked wasn't great. You know, that's already happened. I just get to go in and do it.
Oh, that's amazing. So is it Kim then that's setting the timeline? Because I think that's a big challenge often I see agents struggle with is that they have a client and they're like, we're ready to list. And then they feel like they've got to put them on the market as soon as possible. And it's like, well, hey, you have to remember there's photos, there's the amount of time to build the marketing, and you kind of have to work on a calendar and work back. So, and I imagine with the amount of listing prep that you're doing, that's also adding in some days. So how do you set expectations with your clients?
So once we've figured out what the budget is and what we can actually accomplish, I work backwards from their goal list date and see what we can get done and how we can line everything up. And I think like that is a huge part of what we do that I think is different from a lot of realtors. Like I really want control of the scheduling of all the vendors. I want full control of all of that. I want to map that all out for a number of reasons, but mostly to stick with the timeline because, you know, like that's not everybody's wheelhouse. The average homeowner doesn't know how to stagger contractors or what needs to happen first or what, you know, like, is this worth spending money on over this? And if we can come in and say, like, here's where you should spend the money and here's the timeline and I'm going to get you all the bids and I'm going to manage it. And this is the day we're going to hit the market.
That as a client sounds amazing. I just called our maintenance team because I have a list of things to get done on my house. Mm-hmm. And that is the value to me is to be able to like, here are the keys. Yeah. And just let me know when you're going to be here. And they're doing the communication with the vendors and getting things set up and lined up because all of that in itself, like maintaining the relationships, knowing when they're going to come, what should be done and when is a lot.
Yeah. And also knowing, I mean, you know, I've been doing this for so long and such a wide range of houses and conditions. It's like, I know when there might be a hiccup and I know if a project is, you know, depending on the scale of the project, like, oh, we should put in like a day buffer for that porch to dry, or we should put in 2-day buffer in case we open this up and these walls need to be repaired. Like building that into the schedule ahead of time is just not reasonable to ask homeowners to manage that.
And what do you think's different about your services than like we've got a stage? Because a lot of listing agents will say, well, let's make sure we get this staged. But can you define that for if I'm a homeowner and I'm thinking about listing my house? Like what are the differences?
It's really two-pronged. It's like, what can we do to make it Instagrammable, to create a color thread throughout the entire property so when they're clicking through photos, they're not going like bright orange room, bright green room, bright purple trim. You know, it's like a cohesive color thread through the whole thing. And so when we are going to list a property, I think about the era and who the buyer is going to be and which stager is appropriate for that buyer demographic and that house. And then I think about what inventory that stager has, what angle the photographer is going to be taking the photos from, because, you know, I obviously know her photography at this point. So I know where all that's going to happen. And when I walk into that space, I can think about like, what is the like money shot for this going to be and how do we get there? But also, you can't just make it cute and Instagrammable and then have an unserviced furnace and, you know, mold in the basement and all of these things. So there's that prong as well, which is like, how do we get people not nervous about condition so that nobody's disappointed that they saw this cute house and then they came to see it and it's actually garbage? You know, we got to like make sure that both of those things come together at once. And that is really largely dependent on condition of the house and what the client's prep budget is. Some people don't have prep budget. Like even staging is tricky.
What do you do in those cases when budget's really tight?
I have a very solid relationship with our vendors. And if it's a house that I know it doesn't have a obvious problem, like it's not on a busy street or, there's not some obvious thing that's going to make it be on the market for a really long time. Some of our contractors will take payment at closing. The biggest problem we've seen in probably the last 2 years is condos. People typically are losing money when they're selling condos at this point. They don't have a lot of money for renovation or staging. And stagers don't really want to stage condos. They're kind of a pain in the butt to stage for parking and elevator and all of those things. And then they sit on the market longer. So their inventory is stuck for a long period of time. And we've just had so many say no that I'm staging the condos myself now.
And when you say you're staging them yourself, like is that like working primarily with their furnishings and?
A combination of both. We do get permission from clients to let us come in 2 hours ahead of photos and rework the space on occasion, especially if they're going to keep living there. But if it's an empty condo, I just have a stock of stuff for a 1-bedroom apartment so that we can stage it when we need to. Because they need it.
Yeah.
They're just little boxes most of the time.
Yeah. I just listening to you talk, I'm just thinking about all the hats that we are sometimes expected to wear as realtors, and how anybody does this, not on a team, is wild.
It's wild. Oh, I can't even imagine going back to solo.
What do you think are, for agents listening to this, they're just starting their, career. They don't have a bunch of furniture. What would you tell them are like the top 3 things they should keep in mind when doing their best to prep a listing for the market?
Oh, let's see. Top 3 things. I mean, condition is huge. Like anything that is going to be a financing issue or going to be insurmountable by most buyers is definitely a priority. And that sometimes isn't the pretty stuff. Sometimes that's not the fun stuff. That's not the stuff that shows up on Instagram, but it's necessary. And a paint and lighting goes a long way. You can make a big impression just from paint and lighting. So those are always huge. Obviously curb appeal from the exterior for sure, but staging, painting, and lighting kind of can't argue with those.
Yeah. The National Association of Realtors did a study, I remember, and they came back that the return on paint was $1 to $10. It was a return of $10 per dollar spent on paint.
You're probably going to paint anyways. You might as well pick some fun colors here and there. And we have seen in the last year and a half that buyers are pretty much over white and gray. For a minute. Let's hope that it stays longer.
So tell me about that. What are some of the trends that you see that buyers are really reacting to?
Like thoughtful pops of color.
Yeah.
For sure. And thoughtful pops of color that are cohesive throughout the property. I think that makes a big difference, both in how it is presented online, but also how it feels when they walk into the space. And it also doesn't feel as personalized. I think that there was like a trend in Portland for a long time where people were just painting the interiors of their houses all sorts of crazy colors, which I'm totally pro. But it looks like a homeowner choice instead of a for the general market choice.
We had an agent on the podcast earlier, and they said, well, you love this color, but the thing we know for sure.
Oh, it was Kim.
Yeah, is that you're not going to be the buyer. That's the one thing we know for certain.
For sure. That lime green house, though, she was like, oh my God, this green is so terrible. It's going to be terrible. And then I got there and I was like, I like it. But we did change the trim color and the door color on that house, and it looked like a whole new house, even though the body color stayed the same.
That's incredible. And and I imagine, too, that's a huge part of your services is the value engineering.
Yeah.
Like, how do we drive the best results, spending the least amount of money, and that you have the eye to do that, you have the experience to do that, you have the skill, the connections.
Yeah, I think connections are a huge part. I mean, I think that I would also say that to new agents trying to build their business, like nurturing your relationships with your vendors and contractors is just like So important.
Say more about that. How do you do that? How would you recommend that we are treating our vendors and nurturing those relationships?
Checking in with them. I do a winter check-in with all of my vendors. We go to lunch or we go to coffee, and just check with them, like, what could I do differently to make this? Because a lot of times we're getting bids that we aren't going to actually use. And so you're asking for a service that they might not ever get paid for, a lot in real estate throughout the entire transaction. And obviously you can burn through contractors really fast by doing that in a way that doesn't feel like respectful. So I do a check-in and I find out, like, is my scheduling the way that I'm doing it feel good to you? Do you need me to give you more information or different information? Are there jobs that I'm sending you on that you don't want to be on? Is there a particular kind of job you'd rather be doing that we can guide you towards? And, thinking about them as somebody that you are collaborating with. I think that there's, I hear it all the time in real estate, like, who do you use for this? Or I use this person for that. Or who do you use for that? And it just feels bad to me to use the language when you're referring to another human being who's doing a service that they are skilled at. Like that language doesn't feel good. And also just being not thoughtful about the scheduling and how you communicate with them. Like, when I'm going to get a bid from somebody, they know the address, they know the client name, they know the client email address, client phone number, the scope of the work, the time period in which it needs to be done, and then other work that may or may not be happening around that time. And it's worked well for me. I mean, I have had the same landscaping crew for over a decade, and
that says a lot.
Pretty much all of the vendors we work with have been with us for many, many years now. And I think that's a big part of it. They feel respected for sure.
I always said when I was selling real estate, I was like, the most important key part of my success is my relationship with my general contractor.
Yeah.
Like, that was kind of end stop. It's like, how would I do my job without being able to call Pete and know that he would be there? Know that I could trust what he said, know that he would follow through and get it done.
It goes a long way with clients too, to be like, oh, this is a person we've been working with for 8 years. They have prepped 75 houses for us, or whatever the number is for that particular thing. So that it gives clients a peace of mind to know that you're not just randomly picking contractors to work on their house. Nobody likes that.
Yeah. What do you see from being kind of behind the scenes, so to speak, on your team? What are things that you would say to new agents or agents looking to raise their skills? What do you think are 3 really important aspects of doing a great job for that seller?
Don't believe that you can do it all, or that you know it all if you don't. Like, I definitely lean into our community for experts in various things, and to not get in the weeds about aesthetics. I think that is the fun part of listing prep.
Yeah.
And that the return isn't there in the same way always as systems.
What do you see, what do you see Kim do that you're like, oh, man, does she do that well?
Manage and navigate people's emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, just a pro at it. Just does not get sideways, does not get flustered, does not absorb other people's emotions.
She lets people have their experience and guides them through it, no matter where they're at.
Yeah, and she stays steady. She's not a Taurus, She doesn't get all feisty like some of us.
Yeah, I'm teaching the Boss Up class right now, and one of the key points that I try and reinforce every class is that you're not the hero of this story.
Yeah, right.
This is your client's journey, and you're like Yoda.
Yeah.
They're going to seek you out, and you're going to give great advice so they can slay whatever dragon it is or dark force of the universe they need to slay. But you're there just to hold space and be the expert and give really great counsel step by step.
There is the counseling is obviously a necessary part of real estate, and there are decisions and things that the seller needs to be present for, but there's a lot of things that they don't really need to have on their plate that we can take off their plate. They don't They don't need it. Listing prep is really a mini renovation in a lot of ways. And that's like, it's just a huge ask for people who are also trying to make a huge decision in their life and are in a transition of some kind.
Yeah. I can also see where you working in a team the way that you're working, that you can just be focused on that and their needs, and you're not being pulled away by other distractions or other things that are needed. Like there's a certain pace that construction or renovation goes.
Right.
And then there's a certain pace that negotiation in a transaction goes. And so to try to juggle, a whole roster of clients going at these different paces and at different places would be.
Yeah, it would be a lot.
Extremely stressful.
Yeah, it was stressful for a lot of years.
So you're someone that, you talk a lot about managing your nervous system, about creating a space for yourself in this business that allows for you to have balance. You're also an extremely talented artist, gardener, you're a mom. You have some hats in your life that I think are probably, not that they're more important, but just as important, maybe more important than your career to you. And so can you talk a little bit about how you've learned to like work in your flow so that you can be available for these other places in your life that are so important to you?
Time blocking from the Boss Up class.
Oh, well, you're welcome.
I mean, honestly, it's huge because I can set my life up so that I am visiting properties all on one day. Like I can set myself up I did 2 color consultations this morning and a light fixture consultation. It's like I can do that all and loop that all in to be out of the house in one day so that the rest of the time I'm not, so much of real estate is like, hurry to this house, hurry to that house. Oh, you're sitting down for 5 minutes? Well, I want to see this house at 6:30 tonight. Okay, put your pants back on, go out. It's like there's so much of that, specifically with buyers, more so than listings. And that there's just none of that. It's very rare that I have to like hustle somewhere in an urgent way. It's almost all mapped out pretty well. Which
that in turn must give you a ton of freedom to be able to turn your attention to other places. I recently heard this definition of freedom that I really love. And that is like, freedom is not an absence of restraint. Freedom is systems that support your ability to act unpredictably.
Yeah, I like that.
It's like we know you're going to act pretty predictably if you're always in fear and always have to go. But like the unpredictableness of, I'm going to create something new today. I'm going to garden. I'm going to cook. I'm going to spend time with my kids. It's like, I'm not just going to run this burnout loop. Again and again.
Totally. And that is part of the beauty of listing prep. It's like I can get up in the morning and do all of my touches and then kind of tap out for a couple of hours. And then in the afternoon, tap back in and see who got back to me or what schedules need to be shifted.
And knowing that you've mobilized a team of contractors and folks that you can trust. So again, that goes back to like really nourishing those relationships so that you have a certain level of autonomy you can give people to know that they're on it.
I definitely don't feel like I have to babysit projects.
Right. You're leading the orchestra. You're not practicing everyone's instruments.
Yes. Nobody needs that.
We're talking about managing our own nervous systems. And that is in a big part because we're also hopefully helping our clients manage their own, like have a great experience, have them, when this whole transaction is done, they think, how could I have ever done it without this team?
Yeah, that's the goal, right?
Yeah, provide an exceptional amount of value. So talk about that. What do you do to also ease the burden for your clients?
So when you think about somebody getting ready to sell their house, that the choice to sell is already a big choice that they've had to make. And it usually means that there's turmoil in their life, for better or worse, good or bad. It's there because there's a change happening. And then they're also probably thinking about where they're going next and what that's going to look like. And so they have all these big changes, not even touching on the financial part of it, which is also obviously a big thing that weighs on people. And so if you can come in and say, these 150 decisions need to be made before we get to the closing table, but I'm going to make 120 of them for you.
Yeah.
And then your nervous system will be nice and regulated when it's decisions that matter, like what offer to accept, how to proceed in negotiations for inspections. If you have a client who gets to that point and they're so fried from shopping for light fixtures and picking paint colors and finding a stager and coordinating yard crew and all of these things, they're not at their best.
Yeah.
They're not regulated for the actual decisions that are important for them to make. They don't, like Kim said, they're the only ones not buying that house. They don't need to make the aesthetic choices. That's best left to us.
Do you ever have clients where it's hard for them to let that go?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they've never. I mean, I know for myself growing up the way that I did, like we didn't have cleaning folks. There's just like, yeah, you did everything yourself.
Yeah.
That's just how it went. And so I've really had to learn how to like graciously hand things over.
Yeah, right.
and not tell myself a story about, having other people do things for you. But I imagine that must come up with clients.
It definitely comes up. And we're not going to push on that. If they're not comfortable releasing that to us, like, that's okay. Tap me in when you feel like you need something, for sure. I also do when clients especially when it's an occupied house or when they want to handle the prep work, I do a video tour and I voice over for them what needs to happen in every room.
Yeah.
And then send that to them. And I had a client this year that said, I just need you to make me videos like that for every part of my life.
Yeah, I know. I was going to ask, can you come to my house, please?
And then they have this clear reference.
Yeah.
It's not an overwhelming list.
Yeah.
They can say, okay, I have an hour today. I'm going to tap into the list on this bedroom, and they can just watch that video and see exactly what needs to be done. And then I also send like an actual written checklist, but that's pretty overwhelming for people a lot. It's like, you're getting ready to make this big decision, and here's a list of all the things you need to fix in the house you love.
Yeah, that you didn't even know you needed
just
to do.
living with. Yeah.
Yeah, so much of this is protecting, our folks from decision fatigue, right? Like, that's more of it than the doing. I mean, I'd rather do than have to decide.
Yeah, for sure.
Just tell me what to do.
Tell me what to do. Tell me who to hire. I mean, this is also part of like the maintaining your vendor relationships. If you're the point of contact with your contractors, they have you as one client.
Yeah.
If you're giving your clients a list of things to do and your contractor's name every time, that's like 30 or 40 clients a year for them to have to navigate. It's not going to go well.
How do you get paid? I mean, that's one of the things that, like, if it, a general contractor, if they were coming in to do this and it wasn't attached to a sale, that you'd be submitting regular invoices. Generally, for agents, there is an agreed upon commission and listing preps included in that. But if someone all of a sudden finds out they're not getting the transfer, or sometimes I have heard of people listing preps so well for their clients they don't want to move.
Oh yeah, we've had a couple of those.
Yeah, like, oh wait, actually, I think I really love my house now.
Yeah.
which is that's great. But how do you handle that where it's equitable, or what is the conversation up front to prepare clients for that?
We have like a bit of a go-giver mentality and lean into the abundance of this industry on our team. And so in a situation like that where we have had clients say, we've changed our mind, we love it. Even after like they get the photos back and they look at it and go, oh man, I do want to stay here. And, thank you for all the things that you did. And the ask is for referrals.
Yeah.
And we get them. Like, even if they don't sell their house, we get a handful of referrals for sure.
So it's just part of the process.
It's just part of the process. And because it doesn't feel like a task and it feels like a flow and something I enjoy doing, I don't feel bitter about it or like, oh man, I did all that work and didn't get paid. It's like, no, somebody loves their house again. Like, that is great.
It's interesting because you're just pointing again to, like, if you don't feel like you've killed yourself to get somewhere, if everybody's really working kind of in alignment and flow and trust in that we do the right thing and our client is going to do the right thing in return, it's generally like everyone's kind of saving their energies and it just keeps going.
Yep.
Any other bits of advice or wisdom that you would want to share with our agent community about just being the best at getting there. Because, our company is known. Like, I feel like sometimes when you're really, really good at something, it's almost like you don't even know how to articulate it because it's so natural. And I think the living room community, and specifically, we get this all the time, is that, oh my gosh, you guys have those beautiful listings.
Mm-hmm.
And we happen to have a lot of agents like yourself who are just so good at positioning and getting a house ready. But if you could kind of like step outside and imagine this wasn't like your flow or your highest and best use, what would you say to an agent that wants to get better at being able to position their agent and do that really great listing prep? Because we know at the end, that's what really drives results and higher offers and higher profitability for our clients.
Yeah, which is pretty specific to our market.
Yes.
The like Instagrammable situation with listings is pretty specific to Portland. I mean, I spend a lot of time looking at other listings all over the world, and also, home renovation shows and all the things. I'm just like constantly taking in information of design and style and checking in with our buyer team on what are challenges buyers can't get over right now. Like, I think that is a huge part of our job as listing agents is to think like a buyer and to think like an average buyer and an average buyer's agent who might not be able to talk people through challenges, like both aesthetic challenges and condition challenges, going into a listing appointment with your eyes sort of locked into those two things and not getting sideways about pitching yourself as much.
Yeah.
Like there's just a lot of listening that happens in real estate for sure. And sometimes we go into a house and it's clear that they've picked crazy colors and they love them. And it's like, okay, we're not going to offend, but we're also going to talk about ways in which this could be different to appeal to more buyers.
Yeah.
And I feel like I struggled early on in my career too, like not wanting to offend people. And that has been a huge growth for me. It's like, you're not actually offending them and like withholding the truth about how their property is going to perform in the market to not hurt their feelings is not of service to them.
No, it does more harm.
And it sets you up at a deficit because now you've overpromised a service that you can't fulfill.
It reminds me of like the basics of debate team, right? Like understand what the argument from the buyer is going to be, the person on the other side of the table in a transaction. Let's think about what their objections are going to be, what their arguments are going to be about this property, and head those off before we get to the market. And so really getting yourself in the mind of the buyer is really wise. And talking to buyers agents and making sure that you're staying on top of like, what are you seeing? Because there are micro trends and there are things that vary. Like you were saying, like buyers responding to a little bit of color right now or how it shows up on Instagram. Like we're human, right? If we want to show off our house or we want it to look a certain way, but we don't have the skills, how?
Yeah.
You need to be able to go in. I was always really, you and I are both visual artists. And I was always really amazed that when I toured a buyer, they could not see what I could see.
Most can't. And honestly, most agents can. Like that most humans, like that is just a thing. It is hard for people to envision a space different than what it is at the current moment.
And there's so much tremendous value that our particular skill set we can bring to a transaction when it's like these two changes.
Right.
The rest of the market can't see it, but we're going to do this and we will increase value to X.
And that changes with every market. It's like, what will buyers tolerate in X market? That shifts seasonally. It shifts annually. We are constantly checking in with the buyer team and other buyers agents to see what things, it used to be you could negotiate having floors refinished.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen anymore. Now you have to think like, okay, what are the big ticket items that are going to be daunting or overwhelming to a buyer that are going to make a difference?
Floors being refinished only makes sense between moves as well.
I know. It does. It's
only
true.
Makes sense.
But we used to be able to negotiate it. We can't negotiate that anymore. Sellers aren't doing that.
Yeah. This is great. Well, any other final words you want to leave the real estate community with?
It is a job, but it is also a collaboration. And it is not just a collaboration with you and your client. It is a collaboration with you and the seller and all the vendors and all the potential buyers. and thinking about it in like that holistic start to finish versus just getting to the market is super important.
I love that. Like creating community.
Yeah.
Everyone wins scenarios and remembering that it takes everyone to get to really great results, and to think we're going to like just fight our way through.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
You don't have to bulldog through it.
The
you can just
hero.
coordinate through it. It's okay.
Well, I really appreciate you being on.
Thank you,
Andee. And if folks want to see some of the beautiful spaces that you create, both in your own life and garden or in your business, where can people find you?
Instagram.
And is that just your name?
Yeah, my name, Andee Zeigler, with it's EI, or my gardening and art Instagram is 3 Sepals, which is, that's a part of a plant, but 3 Sepals.
Endless inspiration for those of you who have not been there before. So
thank you.
You always are so inspiring. Thank you for being on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.